Welcome everyone to a quick campaign overview of Grand Tactician, the Civil War. And I wanted to try to give this a really fair shake. I played it for about 10 hours now before doing this gameplay overview, at least of the campaign. I have to say that everything that I'm talking about here is 2 weeks before it goes to early access. So I'm going to talk a lot about some of the unfinished parts of the game. Just know that by the time it gets to early access, it may already have been improved. And then if you're watching it any time after that, during its early access, I'm sure that it will continue to improve. Now, I liked to leave the background here for a little bit, these images, little movies. I feel like this adds a really great amount of character to the game. I believe this is all done through Lionheart Film Works, so it's a great partnership that you have these, this immersive... This is so great! Anyway, so what I'll be doing today is I'll be starting a campaign as the Union. I think if I do a campaign in the near future, I'll probably play it as the Confederates, which would be a little bit more interesting. But let's just start a 1861 campaign as the Union, just to give you an overview of the campaign, which is my goal for this video. Just show you what the campaign is like, and even though it has some unfinished stuff going on, you can imagine what the finished product may be like. There are different policies that you can choose here. I'm going to leave the default on just by going back and forth, which is Underground Railroad, Kansas a free state, and industrialization. But I honestly do think you might benefit from like turning off Underground Railroad and maybe turning on like Breadbasket or something like that. I haven't min-maxed that much, but I think that there could be some benefits to using not the historical ones. And that's gonna, anytime you offer these kind of options, of course, it increases the replayability of the game. So let's start this new campaign, which is going to wipe out my current Union campaign, which went all the way to July of 1861. And I've actually been watching other people playing this game, so of course I'm not the only YouTuber out there. And the Historical Gamer has been playing a bunch of this. There's also been History Guy Gaming, even XTRG gave this a shot. I'm way behind, but that's because they're all much more comfortable, much braver, and more courageous, able to play a game without knowing it that well. Me, I take a different approach. I always like to dive into the manual and play around with it for a while before I feel comfortable presenting it to other people. I hope that the benefit from that will be that I'm able to give a pretty, let's just say, a more mature perspective on the game than just a first reaction. One thing, there's a high production value to a lot of these like movies and things that are part of the game. It's also the movies we saw, the little reenactment skits at the beginning.
Abraham Lincoln, June 16, 1858.
Thank you, Mr. Lincoln, President Lincoln. So those, I'm going to skip over them, but even those little skits, it's great. I find that those are really just draw you into the game, and you sit and appreciate that the game actually added this value for you. It's really nice. So there are newspapers in this, which means that as time progresses, time up here, February 23rd, 1861, I don't know, hopefully that's visible. As time progresses, if there's some kind of newsworthy event, you'll get a little pop-up from the Grand Herald. Right-click to dismiss. Now we're playing at normal speed. Here is the strategic map. So when I look at this game, for those of you who aren't aware, Grand Tactician has the dual game modes very similar to Total War. You have the strategic map mode, but then if you fight a battle on the strategic map mode, there is an option. You can auto-resolve, or you can actually go in and fight the battle on the tactical map. And I didn't show it because this is not going to be a video that highlights the tactical combat, which is unfortunate because I think the game's tactical combat right now is superior to its strategic level. But that's just my focus for this game is on the strategic, so I'm just going to highlight the campaign. And there's this beautiful map that they're using, which does alternate between like a zoomed in and a zoomed out mode. And this is like the cartography map. Let me actually turn down that music now. So thank you so much, music, for working. It wasn't working last time, so that's why I have them cranked way up. Let's go down, something like that. Is that a little better? I love the background music, though. I mean, it had so much immersion. And just a note that it's a little finicky right now. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it works when you don't want it to. So I guess that's not working. I'm going to turn down a little bit more. Some of the other settings I've chosen is, right now, European interventions are on, fog of war is on, order delays are on, and feuds are on. It kind of gives you a hint about some of the mechanics that are involved in the game, which is pretty great. So here's our map mode, and if we zoom in, we go from the map viewpoint to the topographical viewpoint, I guess, the 3D rendered map. And that's a nice touch, I guess. I do like the map mode a little bit better, and I think that I was talking about this with the historical gamer. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but some other people, Wolfpack. Oh, well, looks like Jefferson Davis was inaugurated while we were blabbing on. Yeah, so let me actually get to let me pause, P to pause, and then get to the actual gameplay. So we're going to control the American flags are forces of some note. A lot of these are garrisons, so we're going to ignore these. But eventually we're going to have an army and multiple armies moving them around. Again, I just feel like this music's a little loud. I'm going to drop it down a little bit more. Okay, so let's just start at the top, go through the GUI, and then I'll explain some of the options. What are the knobs the player is able to turn? Time, date up here. I mean, time's in the bottom right, actually. It's just after midnight, military time. February 24th, 1861. This is how much money we have available, and this is our cash flow, which is currently enormous. I don't know why that is. We must have just got a loan. Did we get a loan? I don't think we did. This is the number of soldiers who are currently fighting for us. This is our sea transport, river transport, and rail transport. Then we have strategy. This is kind of like might as well call this the overview. The biggest number, not the biggest number, but the most important number to pay attention to is national morale. That's the win condition for the game. Essentially, the Civil War was a war fought over people's opinion. If your people's opinion of the South in the North, in the Union, I mean, if they ever had this idea that it wasn't worth fighting, they didn't want to risk losing people to draw the Confederacy back into the Union, then the war would have stopped. I mean, if there wasn't public support, public support did drop probably below 50% at some points during the war. I'm not sure. I don't know the exact, popularity of the war. But I imagine it did drop below 50% at some point. Nonetheless, it didn't drop low enough that the war had to be brought to a close. And I think that wasn't the big election in 1864 when Lincoln really had a chance of being defeated. Oh, no, it was 1865? No, it was 1864. The election, of course, 1864. And then Atlanta was taken and, something like this. Anyway, national support, this is basically the sum of all or the average, not the sum, but the average of all the states that support you. It's higher for the Confederates because those states seceded, so obviously they must be really for the Confederacy. Whereas you have some states still left in the Union that are waffling between maybe they do want to join the Confederacy, so their national support isn't very high, and that brings down the whole average. Morale of armies starts at 100, but I'm sure the Unions will drop soon. This is our state count, men fielded, naval tonnage. The Confederacy doesn't start with any ships, so that's one advantage for the Union. And then the European relations. This is kind of interesting because it will influence whether or not the British in particular are going to intervene. Move on to military. And this one's fantastic. I mean, we aren't really able to look at the full glory of this at the very beginning of the game. I guess I can just pretend that we're going to create a big army, even though we won't. It's really not the right time to create a big army right now, because for reasons I'll go into, there's policies right now that we're only allowed to recruit for 1 month, which means that, you'd rather wait for your army to stick around for like 3 months or, at least 3 months, but maybe like a year, even 2 years before you recruit them. Now I'm going to choose, for the initial group, I want to choose somebody who's actually pretty close to DC, so that this army in general is close to DC. I guess I could choose Maryland, but, I might want to choose... Let's choose Pennsylvania as for our initial unit. So this is the 25th Army out of Pennsylvania, just so that we can have it closer to DC. And then so this is... If you played Hearts of Iron 3, there was this big contention that the order of battle was too deep, or a lot of people actually really liked the order of battle once you could just start from scratch and do it yourself. This game allows you to paint your own order of battle, so it's very cool from that perspective. So we have our army, we add a new unit that gives us a new corps. We add a new group to our corps, we get a division, we add a unit to our division, and we're going to create a brigade. Let's draw some forces from New York, because we have a hefty group of volunteers from there. We can change the color of their uniforms, even like the look of the people, and these will appear as sprites on the tactical map, so that's kind of interesting. And we'll give them the... I'll give them this look. This is the New Yorker look, if you ask me. So there we have it. So we created our own infantry brigade under the 1st Division, under the 1st Corps of the 25th Army. And that's a terrible name. We probably would rename this from the 25th Army. But that's a good start. We can add another division. Add another brigade. Maybe we'll make this a New Yorker division, as I think that it's not uncommon for, several brigades from the same state to be in the same division. So we'll do the same looking people. Same colors. Yeah, this is all good. This one, recruit that one as well. And then maybe we'll add another division. And this will be... Let's make this one an artillery division. So we'll just make a few artillery units. Leave them in the same kind of garb. Same colors, I should say. Same color scheme. There's our artillery division. This is not necessarily optimal. I'm just trying to create it so that you can see how cool the order of battle generator is. And then I could go ahead and do the same thing. I could add another group, add another... so it gives us not just a group, it's a 2nd Corps now. And then we could add a new division, and we can add maybe... We'd want to... Where? From Ohio, we're going to get a bunch of cavalry. So we'll recruit some more cavalry, and... Ohio people don't want to wear the same colors. Maybe they wear blue and blue. Who knows? I'm just making this up as I go. So there's our cavalry division with we'll give them two brigades. There they go. And now we have our this is obviously not really fully fleshed out, but it's an army. We've made it. Now that is on the game map. If I just get rid of this by... I have a suggestion to make these F1, 2, F3, F4, F5, 6. I think that would be useful, and then being able to hit escape to get rid of this. Right now it just brings up the settings, and I think that escape usually, people are very familiar with that, just closing the menus that are already out before going to the options menu. So you can see that Harrisburg now has the 25th Army and also the 2nd Corps. And if I were to go back into the order of battle, we can see that these troops are going to take some amount of time, 6 days, 10 days for the ones from Ohio, to travel from those far off places to converge on Pennsylvania. And that's all really, really cool. Same kind of idea for the fleet. We only start with one squadron, home squadron, but if we want, we can add a ship to the home squadron, but I think we'd rather just add a ship to just some general just a general ship in a harbor. Just add to our ships. What we would want to add, we have a lot of options. So many different options. They all have their own, like the size, the armament, the armor, speed, building costs. So there's so much to play with here. It's like, chef's kiss. Awesome. I love what I see when I see all these different options for building. It's just so exactly what I want from the strategic level of this game. Now, what do I want to actually build here? That's a double ender. It's apparently a large steamboat, sail and steam, sea and rivers. I kind of like to when I'm playing this, I kind of like to specialize, and I think that the Union actually has so many ocean-going or sea-going vessels that we don't really need those. We're probably much better off getting some movement only by river. Is there such a thing? River monitor. Well, that's probably going to be it. Yeah. So this will be a very expensive, very low armament, but it has iron armor. It's not going to move very quickly. We'll just build one of these for fun, just to see that you can now put this ship in the harbor. And somewhere down at the bottom over here, the USS Agamenticus and Agamenticus. I don't know how to say that, but that's what we added. It's a river monitor, and it's going to take a while for it to build. In fact, I haven't actually had success getting these percentages, which I'm assuming is like the whole strength or like the intactness of the ship. I have not succeeded in getting that to improve, which might just be something that's going to be implemented later. Right now, ships don't repair, or I'm not doing it right. Maybe there's something else I need to do to get them to repair. So that's the military screen. The last one is just the officers. It shows you all the different officers you have, and for the Union, it's a bunch of crummy ones, unfortunately. That's not really true. There are some good Union commanders in there. Finances. So this is kind of fun that we do have an economic side to this game. In fact, I want to jump from this right past policies and go into production and goods and trade just to showcase those for a moment as well. But first we can just take a look at all the graphs. I mean, if you're a kind of person who loves looking at economic graphs and balancing your budget and all that, well, this game is partly for you because you really can't do much to interact with the economy. The only thing you can do is set the tariffs, the sales tax. You really can't set income tax or corporate tax until you get further down the tech tree, which is called policies, but it's basically a tech tree. And then you can influence the subsidies. Now I have auto-managed finances on. Let's just turn that off for now. And let's say that I don't care about spending at all. We'll put diplomacy to medium, and then industry and agriculture to very, very high. Transportation to maybe low. Trade war, that's how much we want to impact the Confederacy. We'll spend more money to hurt the Confederates. Recruitment's going to be important, so we'll put that to high, let's say. And civil order, I still don't know what it does. We'll just put it to medium. Probably influences like support for the war, so never mind, we'll put it to very high. And that's all the different knobs you can play with. So the economy it looks deep, but you can't really interact with it too much. You almost have to trust that it's deep. What do I mean by economy being deep? Well, when I click on production and you see the lag, it's because it has to bring up an enormous list of different places, different resource items, whether they're factories or farms, plantations, iron mines, mines of all kind, coal mines, manufactories, all kinds of things. There's a lot on this screen. And this is the economy being modeled. You can see what they're producing. The slave ratios, I suppose maybe it's the maximum number of slaves that can work there, or it might be the ratio of slaves to free that are currently working there. Yeah, workforce on the left. So it shows you all this, the value, the corporate tax, all those different things. But you can't interact with anything here. This is just informational. And likewise with the goods and trade. So like when I was first starting to buy cannons, I was wondering if I have to look at the artillery. How do I make cannons? Well, none of that is done by you at all. All you do is issue the orders to raise a new artillery formation, and the artillery is provided for you at some cost. So all of this is behind the scenes. We kind of have to trust that it's done. I really hope that it's done and done well, because it's really exciting, but we may also want to see some more feedback here so we kind of know what's going on. I mean, maybe it's actually probably already there. It's just that I don't know how to read this yet. Because 10 hours is still only 10 hours into the game. And then last but not least, that we have the policies, which just is kind of like your tech tree. Do note that this number in the top left is, so far as I know, strict. 0 out of 8. Now we can go over to finances, and this politics one is 3 additional policies. So we're only given 5 for free, but then you can pay an additional 200k for 1 more each, up to a maximum of 5. So if we got the full extra 5, we can do 10 total policies. Now, why I say that this is strict is if I left click on military and then I right click on it to, you'd assume cancel, and that's truly the text which comes up. It says, are you sure, blah, 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 blah. This policy slot will become available again, although new policies need time to get ratified. Now, I'm not going to cancel this because actually that is one of the ones I want, but when the policy completes, I don't know if this is a bug or game design, but when the policy completes, there's no way to right-click and cancel it anymore, which means there's no way to get back some of the policies you already committed to. And I don't know if that's by design. I suspect that it's not, because somewhere in the game manual, I remember reading that the axe... Now, I should first explain the setup, the organization of this screen. The 5 different vertical columns with red lines are the 5 different policy trees. You have government funding, breadbasket, industrialization, military, and diplomacy. So the red lines show the 1, 2, and 3. And then over here we can see 3, 2, 1. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3. And this one goes down to 5. Oh, this one all goes down to 4 actually. So you can see that even with a full 10 policies, there's no way you're going to get very far down the tree. So that means if you want to get further down the tree without being able to right-click to cancel some of them, if you can never get back or a policy point that you've spent on something, then you have to be really careful choosing what you want in the very beginning. I think it's still okay for us to choose all of them, at least maybe not the diplomacy one, unfortunately, because we can't really get any acts with it, and legal blockade is the first act that we'd want to do with it anyway. But so I should talk about the acts then. The acts, once you do the policies, the blue line just shows you essentially the prerequisite for these acts. Once I do this, I will have the ability to do the tariff act. And it says in the manual, if you undo this policy, that this will stay. It doesn't matter. So that implies, I think, that you can undo that somehow. But maybe there's some other way of doing that I'm just not aware of. Anyways, here's your policies. You can read the text for each one of these if you're not sure what it'll do. Military 1, policies with military focus allow more subsidies to boost recruitment, security, and trade war effort. They also offer reorganization of the nation's military, increasing military capabilities. So there's probably the most important policy or act that you have access to in the very beginning is the Militia Act number 1. Because this is the act which declares to the Confederacy that the Union is truly at war with you. And this actually triggers Chapter 2 of the game, which is just like fun, just a way of describing different parts of the war. Chapter 1 is basically the start of everything before the guns really go off, but Demon of War, Chapter 2 is when the war has begun. So you unlock all the technology that is currently locked right now in Chapter 2 once you choose the Militia Act 1. Okay, enough about that. We can actually just show that ourselves. So let's go up to 10x. And I know that we did create an army here, so we can actually showcase moving that around. The blue inner circle shaded is the combat radius. So if you interact with another enemy army within that region, that's like if you're on a attack mode and you move within that radius of an enemy force, you will initiate a battle. And the outer circle is the command radius, which is used for several things, but most obvious, it's the radius where you are in command or in communication range of your superior, or the subordinates. I guess it could work both ways. Anyways, Davis has called for the militia, so he's instituted the 12-month contracts, whereas the Union, again, when we institute the 3-month contract, that's when the war elevates. Now, that's all that's a lot of words, right? I haven't really talked about the shortcomings of this game. It's just unfinished is basically the point, I should say. That's the focus I want to make. The point I want to make clear, or the focus I want to have, is this is before early access. This is basically, I don't even know if you'd call this beta. I think it is officially labeled as a beta somewhere, but it's a beta, very early beta, I would say. There's a lot in this game which is not fully developed yet. And I want to say that because I know that there's been other people who have talked about how great this game is, and I would say that this game has huge potential to be great, but I don't think it's great yet. I think that as it is, if it was never to improve from today, it would be a mediocre at best game because there's a lot of things missing, and I think that I'm pretty sure the developer plans to address these things. So it won't come as a surprise to him or her. I think it's him. I wrote the name down somewhere, but I lost it. There's no real campaign AI right now. If I wander around in 1861 all the way through July, which is what I just got finished doing in my game, the rebels don't really do anything. They don't raise an army and send it north. They don't, I actually sent a fleet down and blockaded them outside of Charleston, and I blockaded Savannah and Port Royal. I blockaded this whole area, and they never moved to challenge me, even though I only had 8 ships in that fleet. So they started building different ships at different places, but they never moved them. So the AI is still a work in progress, I'm guessing. And I want to make this clear because if it is not a work in progress, which I'm pretty sure it is, the game is not... It may not be as interesting as everyone was hoping, because I think there's a lot of hype behind this game. I was extremely hyped for it. It was probably my third most highly anticipated game of 2020. And, 2020 hasn't given us a lot, so hopefully it can at least give us a few good games. I know I've already been very happily surprised with Shadow Empire. We have Distant Worlds Universe 2 or Distant Worlds 2 coming out potentially, and then this one. So yeah. So let's just move some ships down south, and I'll maybe demonstrate the blockade mechanic, or maybe get ourselves into a battle we shouldn't be in. So send these guys south, and we'll speed up the time to 10x, and just kind of get a taste of what the campaign management is going to look like. So I think I moved, if I zoom in enough, and by the way, another issue is there is a little bit of a lag. There is a little bit of lag in the game right now. Let's move you to, so Alexandria is ours? Oh, right. Of course it is, because I guess Virginia hasn't seceded yet. We're just going to happily move right on in, knowing that, they welcome us with open arms. We're going to move over here as well. Now, these boxes being highlighted in red means that I'm allowing them to use rail movement, sea movement, or river movement to get to their destination. Really cool to see that that's available to us. It does remind me, of course, of Age Odds, the Civil War II, which had all these options available. You can see that one's using the train to get there. So I think we'll go park out of Fredericksburg down here as well, just because we're suspicious that we might want to be here at some point. Just move them this way. Go ahead and use whatever means at your disposal to get there. So I'm just setting up one corps over here, my cavalry corps, my infantry corps over here, and my actual head command over here. And I think the head command will have the command radius to reach everyone over there. Okay, Agricultural Policy 1 was selected, so that means that our policies have now finished, and we can select civilian warships because we finished both the policies on the other sides. I think that we'll just move on to Industrialization 2 and probably Breadbasket 2. And we'll probably at least leave one policy open for Military 2 as well. Which probably, let's see, that'll take us up to 3 plus 4, 7. Yeah, well, of course, I could have just looked here. One more will take us up to 7. And we'll have 3 more available to us, which will probably end up being Industrialization again and Military again. Maybe we even stop with Breadbasket after 2 just to save for Industrialization and Military. But anyways, I haven't min-maxed anything yet. This is all just theory crafting a game I almost know nothing about. But it's still fun to see, and let me hit unpause. We keep going. Our armies get into place. Looks like the South, the Confederates, have chosen Industrialization. Iron casemate for Confederate ships. Ooh, that's worrisome because I know history. Hindsight is 20/20. We do not want to deal with the Merrimack. So this is the campaign in a nutshell. I mean, you can imagine, if I wanted, I could probably just cut the video and swap to the 1862 campaign where there is more of an AI. But just so you're not, surprised by what you see here, let's actually go to war. Turn on the militia. Whoops. Oh my god, I gave an order. Trying to right-click out of the screen. Let me hit X on that. How's our ship going, by the way? It's doing okay. Technically, these are all our ports, but I don't think that's going to remain the case for very long. I'll get down there. I'll confirm that order. And let's unpause. So you can see the campaign movement. It's nice. And there's an order delay. If I was to give an order, let's say to my commander. Where's my 25th Army? Okay, so good. Let me give this guy an order to move to Alexandria. And then if I zoom in on him, there should be a timer that tells me when he's going to move. Looks like it already bypassed. I didn't actually see a timer there. I could probably just do the same with the first corps. But, okay, let's just tell the second corps to move slightly just for fun. So what if we have you move down here? Okay, there's the timer, 122, and boom. Okay, so this is the entering of the second chapter, as I mentioned. We're now officially at Civil War, which means that, hey, Virginia has seceded, but we're already in position to not care because we already took over their places. So we already own all these things because of our forward-looking thought. So I'm going to move the Army Commander himself south, and then I'm going to move the First Corps down to Richmond. And it looks like Richmond is ours. I don't know why. Did we actually hold on to I don't think we held on to Virginia. Yeah, it's red. It's highlighted red, so it's not ours, but got lucky somehow. So this is what you can expect out of the campaign as it is right now. I don't want people to go into the game thinking that, it's really well fleshed out from the 1861 campaign. Here's the British intervention percentage. 20%, so relatively low. Probably because I haven't enacted my tariff act yet, which I plan to do just to increase my own income. And now with the higher, I think we'd wait for the 12-month militia act to go into place first before we started recruiting, because 1 month, 3 months, it's not that big of a difference, but getting somebody who's going to stay for at least a full year, that starts to mean something. And here's the newspaper pop-up saying, apparently I did something I didn't know I did. Did I click on civilian warships? I didn't even realize that. Huh. Okay, so we did the civilian warships, which means steamer whatever's... Yeah, I still can't hit escape to get it out of that. But if I go to military and we go to fleets, we hit plus, the steamer rate, yeah, 4th rate, 3rd rate, and 2nd rate steamers become a lot less expensive. I think we'll just build a lot of 2nd rate steamers then. I'll just build like 4 of them, because I will want some 2nd rate steamers to move up and down the Mississippi. These are my river boats. I hope they are. Good lord, are these... Okay, they're sea and river. I would probably even deal with them even if they were only... It's only 9 guns. Yeah, I'm still okay with it. They have a speed of 12, which is pretty good. We'll just buy a few of those. I mean, they're cheaper, right? We have to make the most out of that act. So this is your overview of the campaign. I'm just going to pretty much cut off the video here because I wanted to keep this video as short as possible. Short enough that you can show it to your friends and they don't panic by seeing an hour-long video or something. This is what the campaign map looks like. This is how campaign army development happens. This is how the fleet movement happens. And if I click on the fleet, now that I'm here within the range of these ports, I can click on the home squadron. I can select fleet orders and click blockade. And now we're going to start blockading these ports. I mean, supposedly. I think it's happening, but I don't have any feedback that it is, so I'm just going to assume we are blockading them. And, this is obviously to support Fort Sumter, which, even if I was to play all the way through July, the Confederates are nice enough not to attack. So, anyways, there's definitely some things that need to be fleshed out in this game still. I think that F1 through F6 to open these and to close them would be great. Hit an escape to close them. Sometimes you accidentally go to the corner and you pivot the map. I'd really like to turn off edge scrolling if possible, just to leave it as an option. I'd like a button to click and set the view back to north. I have a whole list of things actually. We also want to make sure that oh yeah, is there no ability to cancel policies after that they've finished? To save and load the campaign. So there is no save. It's one Iron Man slot, and you can only play Iron Man mode right now. There's some things that I think would be nice to be able to save the game. Now, but mind you, right now it's not that when you hit quit the game is gone. You can continue when you play next time, but there's not an option for parallel saves. So I cannot, for example, have a Union playthrough and a Confederate playthrough going at the same time. But I'm not worried about things yet. We'll see how the development goes. Again, this is not even in early access yet, so I'm really looking forward to it. This game certainly has the potential to be the best Civil War game I've ever played. I've just been longing for a good grand strategy Civil War game after, the most recent one I played, and I couldn't really get into was Age Odds the Civil War 2. So hopefully this will just blow us all away. And I'll be looking forward to and updating you with development as it comes along. I might try to do a Confederate gameplay campaign to see if that one's any more interesting. The Union one I was doing in 1861 because the AI of the South was dead. It wasn't really interesting, but maybe having the AI of the Union brain dead will just be something more historically accurate. So we'll see, and if that works, I'll try to start a Confederate campaign soon. Otherwise, thanks for watching this video. If you wouldn't mind pressing the like button, giving it the thumbs up just to increase visibility on YouTube, I greatly appreciate it. And if you think that this is a decent enough summary of the campaign overview, if you have friends who are interested in this, send it along to them. I tried to make this on the shorter end, but even for a Tortuga video, 34 minutes is short. So I did the best I could. Until the next video or whatever, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and take care.